Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about how the Monsterverse nerfed Kong. Hold up, what? The Monsterverse nerfed Kong? How? He's going up against Godzilla. He's going to be over 300 feet tall. He took on a fleet of helicopters. How on earth was he nerfed? Well, let's get into that. Skull Island. Skull Island was absolutely nerfed in my opinion. When you look at King Kong 2005 Skull Island, that island is deadly. The jungles are extremely dense, and it's teeming with very populated hordes of creatures. And not only is the island itself full of these dense jungles, but there are also these slanted cliffs in which rockfalls take place, chasms that are extremely deep, and many rivers and swamps. These areas are all full of deadly creatures. The swamps have creatures like the Pteranodon, and a variety of other creatures who all feed there. The chasms, we all remember the scene. Deadly arachnids and bugs that top 10 feet. Those weird slug creatures, I think it was called the Carnictus. Human-sized Weddas. The chasms are instant death. These are no joke. And the jungles, which have, well, you know. Even the cliffs and tops of mountains, which you think would be the safest place to go, are just as dangerous. Hell, just coming ashore can get you killed, what with the falling rocks and insane conditions of the water, especially considering the 20-foot waves.
Those are 20-foot waves out there!
Once you step ashore, deadly kunai predators are already on your ass. If you manage to survive them and get to the wall, you'd have survived the scorpions, bats, millipedes, mosasaur-esque creatures, and many others. Once you're at the wall or in the village, the natives would have already killed you, unless you manage to escape. Especially once the men come back from their hunting and gathering session. After that, and you're in the jungle, good game. That's when all the creatures of the island want blood. And don't forget about the titular creature, King Kong. We'll touch on him separately, but my point is that this is one deadly island. It is not to be messed around with. But then you get to the Monsterverse Skull Island. This island is so just generic. Like, honestly, it seems like it was just an excuse to go visit Vietnam for the cast and crew. For starters, the terrain of the island isn't even that bad. It's literally just Vietnam, where there's a lot of water and fields. There's a boneyard, which is honestly an awesome idea. I do like the boneyard. But that's the only creative thing they do with the island. You got your rivers, your Kong lair. It's all just extremely toned down. The nighttime has an aurora borealis. Like, why? It's Skull Island. What it seems in the Monsterverse is fantastical, and it's not as grounded and horrific as most other Skull Islands are. They could have tried to have been a bit more creative with the environment itself. Let's talk creatures. There's little to no deadly creatures other than the skull crawlers, which 2005 King Kong could wipe the floor with. The actually really awesome death jackals, the spore mantis, the magma turtle, the psycho vulture, siren jaw, the mother longlegs, swamp locust, all incredibly bland creatures. There are a few other mammalian creatures such as that tiger, the sker buffalo, and another creature called the mire squid. And the mire squid is the only creature that I've seen in Kong Skull Island that is actually bigger than Kong by, it's like what, 110 feet? It's off the top of my head. Ramarak is literally just like, what, 10 feet lower than Kong? But if you compare the creatures of the Monsterverse Skull Island to Peter Jackson's Skull Island, the difference in creatures is insane. 2005 just has way deadlier creatures. The natives of the Monsterverse Island are also way more tame and calm. They aren't cruel or vicious, they don't say a word, they're just a peaceful group of people. The Islanders of 2005 are way deadlier for obvious reasons. They de-evolved as humans because that's what the island forced them to do. I get the whole the Monsterverse is trying to do something new, but it just came off as extremely generic. There are kaiju in this universe. They could have had way cooler kaiju that Kong could have fought. King Kong comes from an ecosystem full of different monsters. These monsters should have been given kaiju treatment. I'm talking massive deadly kaiju that are as big and bigger than Kong himself. Look at the animated series. That show had some kaiju that were crazy. They didn't look so generic, they felt unique. There could have been some awesome kaiju that felt unique to Skull Island. If Skull Island screams gross and deadly to viewers, the kaiju should represent that. It would make Kong himself feel powerful, and his emotional side way deeper, seeing as how he's the only remotely quote-unquote normal animal there is, the only social animal there is on the island, yet his kind is extinct and even he's forced to isolation. It makes the audience ponder how this sentient, emotional creature lasted so long when all he would encounter is danger. But we didn't get awesome monsters, just a few generic megafauna. I mean, the animated series had some way cooler kaiju than the Monsterverse Skull Island. Even the animated Godzilla series had cooler kaiju. The island does not feel as lively and as full of atmosphere as the 2005 Skull Island, which was an incredibly missed opportunity for the Monsterverse. And again, I just want to make it clear, the way this nerfs Kong is that without any nasty, deadly creatures that are his size and bigger, Kong has little to no challenges to face. He isn't constantly fighting to survive, as written in his character. He's just patrolling his island against a few puny skull crawlers and other creatures. King Kong. King Kong was nerfed in many ways. I'm not talking about his durability. I'm glad he took the amount of damage he did and was confirmed to still be growing so he can actually fight Godzilla. Just saying, he'd logically be resistant to the atomic breath, which I will make a video on later. Anyways, what I'm talking about is the fact that King Kong 2005 has incredible fighting tactics. He fought viciously, he fought dirty, he was able to take on 3 creatures his size all at once. Single-handed. Like, that's insane. His agility is through the roof in the film as well. In the Monsterverse, he only takes on one opponent that's smaller than him, and he actually has trouble with it. Like, it's such a step down from what King Kong faces in the 2005 film. In King Kong 2005, his entire island is against him. Even off-screen or in the game, he's fought Pteranodons, the giant Pteropusmordax bats, the massive millipedes, the massive kunai predators, which again were the giant crabs, just a load of massive creatures as big and bigger than Kong himself. But he still managed to stay alive. King Kong fights for survival. Kong in the Monsterverse fights occasionally, living his days chilling on Skull Island, which is not even that active. And we see in the comics, he swipes away a herd of death jackals no bigger than his palm. And he's grown to 200 feet tall at this point in 1995 in the comics. But they're still incredibly small. And he takes on a Siren Jaw, which is around 65 feet tall. 65 feet tall to 200 feet tall, that's hella small. He takes on a bunch of other long legs, which are only 23 feet tall in height, at most 40, and some baby skull crawlers. I understand that there are Godzilla-sized skull crawlers, which we know because an adult Kong in the King of the Monsters end credit scene is shown to be as big as Godzilla. And in Birth of Kong, we see fully grown Kongs take on skull crawlers as big and bigger than their selves. But skull crawlers don't even look like a threat to King Kong unless he's fighting 2 or 3 of them. He isn't taking on monsters that are bigger than he is, which is out of character considering the original fought the T-Rex, which was way bigger than he was, or Allosaurus, or Meat Eater, whatever you want to call it. The point is that creature was way bigger than King Kong was, and he still defeated him in his original appearance. So it's in Kong's character to fight against the creature bigger than he is when the odds are against him, as he prevails and overcomes them. So, this lack of creatures, and even deadly ones at that, are a way Kong was nerfed, since now he doesn't even have the experience needed to go against Godzilla. Even the natives on 2005's island would attack King Kong if he overstepped. But in the Monsterverse, Kong actively protects the Iwi, and he has like a guardian connection to them. Like, I'm fine with that whole thing, but it just comes off as generic, you know, it doesn't, I don't know, it's not as charming as King Kong 2005 and the natives in that universe to me. The difference in how King Kong lives on each island and how he's treated is extremely prevalent. To some, the reason King Kong got nerfed in the Monsterverse is because King Kong 2005 had, for one, a deadlier, cooler Skull Island, a more agile, more experienced, and way stronger King Kong. Monsterverse Kong was not living on as dangerous an island as 2005 King Kong was, and Kong himself was not as good a fighter as King Kong. So there it is, everybody. Go ahead and let me know which version of the King Kong character do you prefer. As many problems that I have with Kong in the Monsterverse, I'm just so excited King Kong is back on the big screen, and that he's going to fight Godzilla. We're living in great times. I hope you all enjoyed. Subscribe for more. Please be safe, everyone. Let me know your thoughts down below. Until then, bye-bye.